We'll open the meeting with the prayer. Almighty God, be with us as we work for the people of the Shire of Melville. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as stewards of your creation. May be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us be just in all our dealings. May our work prosper for the good of all. Amen. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to the elders past and present. Just for everybody, the is being recorded and it is also being streamed live. Do we have any apologies? No, everybody is attending. Yep.
Councillor Thatcher and Keogh.
Yeah, so Councillor Thatcher and Councillor Keogh are online. Can I confirm the minutes of the last meeting? Councillor Bingham, Councillor Ball, those in favour? Carried. Any conflicts of interest, councillors?
No.
No conflicts of interest. Public question time. We do have a couple of questions. Are we having people come in to read those out, or am I reading them out?
Read them out. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. CEO, if you like, you can read them out.
Mr. Mayor, the first question is from Judy Harburger, and the question is as follows. The Murrible community are concerned about the state government proposal to dump toxic soil from the Westgate Tunnel project in our region, and are adamant that they do not want the toxic soil in the beautiful Shire. What is Council's position on this? What feedback have Council got back from state government regarding a transparent process? And also, given the 1 year delay for the project, how does that affect the planning and decision-making processes regarding the soil discussion? I'll ask
Mr. Bausenhout, would you like to respond?
Mr. Chair, can you hear me from here, or do I need to?
Yes. Can you hear that, Councillor Keogh?
Yes, not really well, but I can hear it.
Yeah, if you'd like to come forward, Henry, that'd be great.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, thank you for taking the time to submit your concerns about the proposal to receive, store and potentially dispose of the unclassified soil from the Westgate Tunnel project at Bachmansmaas. We understand that this is a sensitive issue for many in the community. It is understood that a proposal was submitted to the Minister for Planning for consideration under Section 20 Part 4 of the Planning Environmental Act and on 5 May 2020, Council received a copy of the application and associated technical documents from the Planning Minister on 20 May this year. We are in the process of reviewing these documents to provide a response to the Minister by 18 June. In response to the specific questions, we can provide the following further clarification. Council has not had a chance to review the documents in full at this stage and has therefore not formed a formal position on it. However, Council has expressed its concerns about the proposal, the lack of consultation to the relevant ministers since December 2019, and we will continue to do so. Council has not received any feedback from the Minister's office regarding the transparency of the proposal in response to question number 2. And in the last question, it is acknowledged that the Westgate Tunnel project is under a lot of pressure. However, the Planning Minister has an obligation to adhere to the correct planning and decision-making processes and protocols regardless of the project delays. As best we can, Council will continue to keep the community up to date on the Murrible Shire Council's website and Facebook pages. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Thank you. I'll ask the next one if you want, Mr. CEO. The next one's from Phaedra Morris. It's what involvement influence does Council have in the decision-making process regarding the VAC recommendations for the Wombat Littered National Park? can council advise if they are aware of the state's response? Where can we as local stakeholders get information about this process or get involved? Mr Jeffrey?
Okay, thanks, Mr Mayor. In relation to the first question, this is a state government process relating to review of the Crown Land within the Central West region. Council provided a response to the Central West investigation proposal paper in late 2018 in relation to the Wertedurg State Park, Wombat State Forest and Bungle State Forest. No further engagement was undertaken with council in the development of the final report. In relation to the second question, the state government was scheduled to respond to the recommendations by late February 2020. We've been advised that the significant summer bushfire season, the COVID-19, has impacted initial timelines for state government response. At this time, a revised timeline is not yet known. And in relation to the third question, final report, fact sheets and other information relating to the investigation can be found on the VAC website, and we've provided a link to that website, which will be provided in the minutes.
Thank you, Mr Jeffrey.
Mr Mayor, if I may.
Certainly, councillor Sullivan.
Given that council did formulate a response in late 2018, and I think a letter, as Mr Jeffries alluded to, was sent off to the powers that be at that time, could that letter also be attached to the response to this lady, please?
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I think that could be.
That's appropriate. Well, it shows that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a third question from Nisha Bernadine Kowalski. Is council involved in any advocacy to the state government urging them to plan and budget for a secondary state school in Ballan? If not, why not, when this issue has been of great community concern over the past two council cycles? Mr Bowsenhout.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Council has not undertaken any formal advocacy to state government regarding the planning and budgeting for a state secondary school in Ballan. We do, however, acknowledge the projected high growth, and council will therefore continue to monitor the annual growth rate in Ballan and the threshold figures that require that triggers the school. Provision standards for secondary schools are 1 per 9,000 to 10,000 dwellings. There are currently approximately 1,112 dwellings, or just over 2,500 people in Ballan. With this projected to increase to about 3,000 dwellings, or just under 7,000 people by 2041, council will furthermore factor in rural catchment area in its annual calculations with those growth figures. And as mentioned above, we will continue to monitor the growth to proactively plan and advocate for the provision of community infrastructure in a timely manner. So at this point in time, the threshold figures aren't justifying a secondary school.
Thank you, Mr Bowsenhout. That's all the questions?
Just a question.
Certainly, councillor Sullivan.
If the presenters were here in public, they would be asked for their name and address. Is this something we've not decided to put on the actual document itself, or just a question, I suppose, because if they were in person, you would ask them where you're from, so that it'd be noted where they're from. That's all.
Would you like to answer that, you all?
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor. The details will be captured in the minutes.
Okay, thank you.
No petitions, councillors? No presentations, deputisations? We'll move into item 12.1, which is revocation of the Urban Growth Policy Statement 2012.
I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Move councillor Dudzik.
Sorry, I was just distracted by you.
Yeah, second to the councillor Borgalt. Do we have any questions, councillors?
I guess
Certainly, councillor Sullivan.
Given that the revocation will be there, does it sort of need a bit of a closure to say what's going to replace it, or is it going to be any more work, or is basically that's it, just a sort of, I suppose, for clarification, because it's truncated without actually.
Mr Bowsenhout.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of the report is basically to say when the statement was first introduced in 2012, it outlined some interim direction and some work to be done. And those specific pieces of strategic work has now been completed. And from a planning point of view, the statement is considered to have been actioned. But it doesn't mean we're not going to do further ongoing strategic planning work. And that statement will always sit in the background as a reference document and background information.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Are there any objections? Those in favour? Those in favour, councillor Keogh? Yep. Motion's carried. Moving to item 13.1, reserve funds, community seed funding reserve. Do I have any questions, councillors?
I just have one.
Councillor Sullivan, certainly.
I understand why this has come to council. I guess my question is, will we be doing any debrief as to, neither of these were instigated by council, so that needs to be made quite clear. And we can't leave them uncompleted, but I think it sort of highlights a weakness in the process where they're not scoped properly in the first instant. So my question is, will there sort of be a debrief of all these to sort of perhaps inform the decision going forward on these sorts of applications so we don't find ourselves in the same situation?
Mr Jeffrey.
Through you, Mr Chair, I think that would be a good idea. Next, there's been a few projects that were externally to us that
Yep.
may not have been completed as well as they could have been.
Yep.
So a briefing would be.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sullivan.
When that comes.
Councillors, I have a recommendation.
I'm happy to move it.
Move councillor Dudzik, second councillor Keogh. Then any objections? Those in favour? Carried. Item 13.2, community grants program, round 1, March 2020.
I move the recommendation.
Move councillor Sullivan. Second councillor Bourgelt. Are there any questions? Is that a question, councillor Keogh?
No, I'll second it.
Move councillor Sullivan, second councillor Bourgelt. Are there any objections? Those in favour?
Oh, sorry.
Item is carried. We'll move into item 14.1, procurement policy review. Are there any questions, councillors?
Just one if I may.
Councillor Sullivan?
I've read the document. I think it to go out for lay on the table, I think is a good outcome. Sort of reading the document in the current environment, particularly when we encounter what's happened in our neighbouring council to the west. Within the policy, does there need to be some sort of reporting head subsection that's sort of how things get reported? Because I know it's embedded in it, and I'm not sort of saying anything, but I think we do need to have a mechanism that shows how we report the use of, say for argument's sake, some of this expenditure, just to have some closure on it, because it doesn't capture that, that's all.
Yeah, happy to take that on note. I think that's a good idea. I know we do go in depth with the audit committee, but I think, have it in the document.
Okay.
Well worthwhile.
That could be added to I suppose put it as a comment when it comes back, please.
Councillors have a recommendation.
I'll move.
Move councillor Sullivan, second councillor Bourgelt. Any objections? Those in favour? It's carried. Moving into item 15.1, municipal emergency management plan 2020 to 2023. Any questions, councillors?
I have one, I'm sort of dominating this. Just a question. Reading all the documentation, the question I have is this a delegated committee of council?
It's not a section 86.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I don't think it's a delegated committee, but I think it's legislated by Emergency Management Act.
Yep.
I need to take that on notice.
Oh, that's okay. I was reading, tell you, Mr Mayor, I was reading the documentation and, we appoint a councillor to the stat meeting. And then it occurred to me, well, is this a delegated committee? So I suppose to clarify it, I'd be happy.
Certainly, councillor Sullivan. Councillor Keogh, you got a question?
I've moved the motion.
Oh, you move the motion?
I'll second.
Second to councillor Dudzik. Are there any objections? Those in favour? Carried. Move into item 15.2, is draft Bores standpipes policy. Any questions, councillors? No questions? Do we have a recommendation?
I'll move.
Move councillor Sullivan, second
I'll
councillor Borgelt. Are there any objections? Those in favour? Carried. We'll go to the mayor's report. Councillors should have been distributed. There's just a lot of the normal advocacy work going on at the moment. So if you've got any questions of that report, no questions? Someone like to move the mayor's report?
I'll move it.
Councillor Dudzik, second councillor Borgelt. Those in favour? Carried. So the councillors' reports, I'll start to my left. Councillor Bingham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Not exactly a report, but I'm foreshadowing that I'm going to bring a notice of motion to the following council in relation to all-inclusive disability access playgrounds.
Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one matter I'd like to raise in my council report. Mr Mayor, I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Delwyn Leggett, better known as Del. Del was the first mayor of Moorabool Shire and also the first female mayor. I met Del at the declaration of the poll of new council in March 1996. The first conversation I had with Del was on that night, and she told me she wanted to be mayor. This began a very interesting 3 years. Del was a very passionate community person. She was a force of nature. During the first term of Moorabool Shire, Del and I had many disagreements. Del was always consistent, but I think a mutual respect grew between us, even when we seldom agreed on anything. I still remember one significant piece of advice that Del gave me during those first 3 years on council together. She told me, and I quote, and this is engraved on my heart, she said, 4 will always beat 3. Del did not contest the 1999 election. She retired undefeated. After Del retired from council, we often caught up at functions and would share a laugh and a good story. I will really miss her. Rest in peace, Del.
Thank you, councillor Sullivan. Well said. Councillor.
No further business. Thanks.
Councillor Keogh.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. Now nearly a fortnight ago, I sadly attended the funeral of Del Leggett. Bacchus Marsh has lost one of its outstanding citizens. Del was a Justice of the Peace, was awarded the honour of the Order of Australia for her services to the community and local government, and was also the penultimate Moorabool Citizen of the Year. Del was a Bacchus Marsh councillor and a past Shire president. She also served as a Moorabool councillor and was the inaugural mayor of the Shire of Moorabool. Del loved a healthy debate and was never afraid to say what was on her mind and to fight for what she believed in. She never gave up and was never intimidated and always displayed integrity, loyalty and honesty. Del was fearlessly loyal to Bacchus Marsh and its citizens and the town she loved. And as Councillor Sullivan said, she used to say to me often, if you want to be a politician, you've got to learn how to count. And it's been a privilege and an honour to have had a friendship with Del for over 30 years. Rest in peace, Del.
Thank you, councillor Keogh. Is there anything else, anything else you'd like to report?
No, that's it, thanks.
Councillor Borgelt, councillor Dudzik,
Your report.
councillor Tatchell. He's not there, okay, so good. All right, councillors, urgent business. I'll start to my left again. Councillor Bingham,
No urgent business, Mr Mayor.
councillor Sullivan.
I just have one bit of urgent business, Mr Mayor, and if, with your indulgence, I'll have a bit of a preamble before I move it, so I'll just paint where I'm coming from on this. Councillors are all aware that the Ombuds investigation report into the city of Ballarat has seen the sacking of a CEO and the resignation of a director. The Ombudsman report is a sobering reminder for all local governments across the state. In my motion would be in light of the Ombudsman report into the City of Ballarat, the City of Ballarat City Council. I've got this written down, so don't bother scrolling it if it gets up. And with regard to the findings of the report, that Moorabool should undertake a review of the following: 1, the employment process and protocols or policies in place in Moorabool, and 2, the use of delegated authority in the awarding of tenders and contracts. Just to take a review, just to sort of snapshot, is everything how it's all tracking? Because I think that what's happened at the city, we just need to have regard to. And I've got that written down if you're.
I'm happy to second it.
Can we get that written one passed down, please? We're going to type that up on the screen so the councillors can see it. Can we do that? We can't do that? Okay. All right, councillors, everybody satisfied they understand exactly what the motion is? Councillor Keogh?
Yes, I understand it.
Okay, so we have a move and a seconder. Are there any objections? Those in favour? Carried.
No other business.
No other business. Councillor Keogh, any urgent business?
No urgent business, Mr Mayor.
Any urgent business, Councillor Bourgell? Councillor Dudzik?
Mattingly Park Committee of Management raised questions about whether or not they could have surveillance equipment due to vandalism in the park. I'm wondering if they can be provided with an answer, because they've been asking to be able to implement that for some time. So can we please get an answer and hopefully get that moving?
So I've spoken to them. I spoke to Mr CEO about 2 weeks ago in relation to that, and we've given them the answer that they are able to do that. They just need to consider some things,
yep,
such as where they're going to put the feed.
Okay, well, that's good.
No other business, councillors. No closed session. Councillors, the meeting is closed.